Happy Wednesday. I've got a fresh cup of tea, but I have to keep it off to the side because it's too fresh. You can see how steaming hot it is. And if I have it in front of my face, I'll just be like sitting around a campfire telling spooky stories. I probably should have given it time to cool down before I started this. Anyway, hi. For those of you who don't know me, I am Lindsey Hall. I am an intimacy and empowerment coach. And my whole purpose with this coaching business is to help empower women to help deepen their intimacy with themselves and with other people, and to own their power and their pleasure, and to live a joyful life that they love. And that's what my personal life is about. That's what my business is about. And so I am so happy that you're here. So I do these weekly tea break chats every Wednesday, and it's a chance to have a tea break. And I do a little bit of life chat about what's been going on in the past week in my life and the lessons that I've been learning, and just talk to you about that sort of stuff. And then I do a Q&A session where people have sent me in their questions and I will answer them anonymously. So a bit of chance for free coaching. So thanks for hanging out with me today. So I guess what has been going on this week? I think the thing that has really kind of been sticking with me has been a reflection on kind of the last 3 years. And sometimes these moments of reflection sneak up on us. Sometimes there's, certain holidays or milestones that make you think about it, but sometimes they do, like I said, just sneak up on you. And the last few days or so have just been, this reflection at looking at my girls and how much they've grown, looking at how far we've come. And it's kind of come from a few different places, actually. So one is that on Monday this week, I agreed, as a favor to my co-parent's girlfriend, she normally has Evie, my 3-year-old, on a Monday, and she needed to do something else in the morning, so as a favor, I agreed to have Evie for an extra few hours. And they usually go to a play group, one of those like moms and dads and carers. There were actually quite a few grandparents there, can bring their babies or toddlers, and there's just like a gajillion toys and snacks, and it's like a room full of chaos. But the kids love it because they can play, and the grown-ups in theory get to chat to each other and all of that. Long-winded explanation I said I would take Evie to this play group that they usually go to on a Monday. And while I was there, it was a reminder of how much I hate play groups. I know I'm not alone in this because I did post it on my stories that day and got some messages back being like, yeah, me too. I know some people really love them and they can be an absolute lifeline. I do not. I only like going to them if I go with my friends that I already have and I can chat to them. I'm not great at small talk. I want like real, actual conversation, and that's not necessarily what those are for. They tend to be small talk, which is just not my forte. It's why I'm not great at parties either. Like, I want to go straight in, like, tell me real stuff. Don't talk to me about general whatever. Sorry, on a bit of a tangent. The other thing that it reminded me of was that so as I was sitting in this play group and watching, Evie, now she's 3 and she's fairly independent in her play, so I was always with her because she wanted to play with me, near me. But I had plenty of time to watch the other people in the play group. And there was a few moms there with, young babies, like newborns in a sling or feeding them, and their toddlers were off playing. And it brought back some of the memories, and not happy memories, of kind of the last time I went to play groups, which was when Evie was a teensy tiny baby and my now 5-year-old was a toddler. So I had a newborn and a 2.5-year-old. I would go to these groups, but it was when my marriage was falling apart, and I didn't always know whether my now ex-husband was going to be home when I got home or not. I didn't know what state things were going to be in terms of where we were and where he was. Everything was very, I want to say dynamic. That probably sounds it was all very messy and up in the air, and emotionally it was turmoil is more what it was. Not so much dynamic, but turmoil. And it brought back the fact, like I would go to these play groups because I had to get out of the house. I had to act like everything was normal for the girls. I had to get them out and do normal for the girls. I mean, Evie was the newborn, but for Nora, for the toddler, I needed to be able to do stuff with her. But like I said, it brought back the trauma of that time for me, and making, like, I used to sit in these play groups surrounded by people, and nobody had a clue that my life was utterly falling apart at home. And if somebody would say, like, ask about my husband, it was all I could do not to burst into tears. And so to be thinking about all of that and then comparing that to where I am now, it feels like a whole nother lifetime. Like, absolutely could be different people that I'm talking about. It's just a different lifetime. And that was in sharp contrast to this weekend when I took the girls to an aquarium, which I don't do big days out with my girls very often. And that is a choice that I've made because in, like, my whole survival technique over the past 3 years has been minimize stress as much as possible and increase feel good and fun as much as possible. And, as any parent knows, days out with your kids can be a lot of stress. Now, I can only assume that people go on these days out because they, for them, the good of the day out outweighs the stress. I think presumably we all sort of make this balance in our head, although I'm not sure everybody, actually I say presumably we all make that. I'm not sure everybody does. I think there's a lot of people who the stress outweighs the good, but they feel that they need to go. They have to go for some reason, whether it's, they have to go for the kids' sake or because other people expect them to or whatever, whatever it is. But I very early on took the stance of, I'm not doing it. If it doesn't feel good to me, I'm not doing it. I don't feel the pressure from other people. I don't feel the pressure from my kids to do it. I just want to minimize my stress as much as possible because I have a lot of it. I had, like I said, a newborn and a 2.5-year-old on my own. And yes, they grew and changed, and this has been over the past 3 years. But I had a baby and a toddler, and then I had a toddler and a toddler, and then I had a toddler and a little kid. And those days out can be hard and so stressful. And I just did not see this being worth it for me. If you had 2 adults there, it might be a different story, but it wasn't worth it for me. So we have spent a lot of time focusing on fun around the house, around our local neighborhood, around the parks, around the woods, around reservoirs. Like, we've done a lot of outdoor stuff because to me, that felt a hell of a lot less stressful. You can melt down all you want and I'm not gonna feel under pressure from, stares of other parents, or you need a wee? Fine, go right here by the tree instead of me trying to stress out about finding the nearest bathroom, or you just want to sit and, play with that pile of mud, and fine, it didn't cost me anything. Whereas if I'd spent a load of money on a day out, that would have stressed me out. So for a gajillion reasons, we just haven't done those big things because it didn't feel worth it to me. And I was really focused on, I'm going to do what feels best for me and reduces the stress in my life. But like I said, we went to the aquarium this weekend and it was amazing. It was so good because we have finally moved into a different life phase. Now, don't get me wrong. Life with a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old is not what I would call easy. I don't think anybody would call it easy still at this point. I don't actually think that you ever get to a parenting stage that's easy necessarily, do you? I've certainly seen enough memes that say, people are excited for the toddler phase to change and then they realize that actually teenage years are worse. So I'm not expecting easy. But we are at a very different phase than when it was a baby and a toddler. So, I don't have to bring a whole suitcase full of supplies these days. The diapers and the nappies and the all the different things. I can make do with a couple snacks and a water bottle and some tissues, and that's fine. The girls can handle longer trips out. Nora can understand logic and rationale and, have actual intelligent conversations about things more. I mean, she's only 5. This only goes so far. Again, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that she's, an adult here. But just things have changed. And so it was such a cool feeling for me to go, oh my gosh, we just did a whole day trip out that involved like packing a lunch, getting the timings right, having lunch in the car, going to the aquarium, spending a couple hours there, balancing the 2 kids' needs. But again, because their needs are lining up more these time right now, that was so much easier. And then carrying on so doing the whole thing, we managed to make it through the gift shop without any big trauma, and then make it back home. And it felt so good to be able to do that. And like I said, in such sharp contrast to the memories that came flooding back at the playgroup, where I was like, I genuinely don't know how I got through all those early days. Like, the answer is just, you just do. And you put one foot in front of the other, and you make the best of it every single day. And yes, I have learned tons of lessons, and there's a bunch in my programs, and there'll be more coming out, because they're not, my divorcee program isn't so much parent focused. I intentionally kind of kept it so that it would cover everybody going through it, whether or not you have kids, but there's definitely elements of kid stuff in there. And in the divorcing program, there's a bonus lesson that's all about kids stuff. So there will be more of this stuff coming, but it just, I guess my big takeaway on all of it was, just recognizing how far we've come, how freaking amazing my kids are, how amazing I've done with them, giving myself a pat on the back that we've been through some stuff, and actually I haven't ruined them. Far from it. They're incredible. And just to point out, I guess, to anybody listening to this who might still be in the early days with the young kids, or the early days of the divorce, to say that it truly, truly gets better. And yes, at some points along the way, it has felt like an entire lifetime while I was going through it. And now, like I say, it looks like a lifetime ago that it all happened. But actually, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that long. Like, this all kicked off, just over 3 years ago. And things are a whole million ways different now. So you can totally get through this. Things will get better. Nothing stays the same. You just gotta keep on swimming. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. So yeah, I think that's my reflection for the week. Is there anything else I want to say on it? I don't think so. So then I will move on. I've got one question this week, and it is one that comes to me from somebody who is in the middle of the divorce process and has asked, have I ever been to mediation? And if so, do I have any tips? Now, my super short answer is no, we didn't go to mediation. However, I do still have some tips. So, no, my ex-husband and I haven't involved any third parties because we didn't need to. There were definitely times where it felt like we were about to need to, and I did email some people to get referrals. There were times when, it felt like we were going to need to go down that route. But in the end, we managed to sort it between us. That said, I am a huge, huge fan of the idea of it, because not everybody is able to sort it between you, and being able to communicate with each other is absolutely massive. And if you're struggling to communicate between you on your own, then bringing in somebody else can make a huge world of difference, and really super crucially can make a huge difference in your kids' experience of all of it as well. So I do know that often when the parents are fighting, the kids can end up either caught in the middle or just feeling the emotional turmoil of all of it. So it's never in anybody's best interest, the grown-ups or the kids, to have the parents at each other. So whatever you can do to smooth that, big fan of, absolutely crucial, and if you've got any divorce professionals who are kind of encouraging you to fight a fight that is going to impact the kids, then they are not the divorce professionals you want on your side. You want people who are going to be making things as easy as possible for the kids, because really it's not their fault that their parents are not married anymore, and they shouldn't be the one to suffer the fallout from all of that. There will be some impact on them, obviously, but the more you can minimize the impact on them, the better. But then in terms of going to mediation and going through the process, my tips on it are the same as they are whether or not you're using a mediator. So the same tips that I used when talking to my ex and having these tough conversations, because we've had our share of tough conversations and still have some. We've got a sit down next week, in fact, that is not necessarily going to be a super easy one, because we disagree on something and we need to figure it out. So what I would say, though, is to, rather than getting yourself all geared up for battle and going in there's ways let me backtrack on this for a sec. If you've got, a big confrontation at work or a big presentation or something, a lot of us have been taught to, do your power stance and to, dress in your power suit and your high heels and get ready to go in and show them who's boss. And in a lot of ways, I'm on board with that and have done that many times in my life and in my career. I don't find that helpful in this situation. This is going to be, for me, one of the hardest things to do, but also one of the absolute biggest game changers, is going in, being willing to be vulnerable, which can be scary as hell when your ex is being a jerk face. And I don't mean, when I say going in willing to be vulnerable, I don't mean opening your, sitting there being willing to be attacked or to be, to share all of your deepest secrets so that they can use that as ammunition against you. I don't mean that. But what I mean is, rather than going in with all of your defense mechanisms up and ready to fight, go in with your guard lowered as much as you can, with deep breaths. I literally wear soft, comfy clothes rather than my battle clothes. I will wear whatever feels best on my body. This would be a great outfit, a big comfy sweater, and I wear comfy things to feel calm in my body and to go in with the assumption that you both want what is best for your kids, that you are not there to try and hurt each other, and that even if it feels like your ex is there to try and hurt you, that will not be a reflection. It's not a reflection of you. It's a reflection of the hurt and pain that they are feeling. So, I think most of us have heard the phrase, hurt people, and you can't control what your ex is doing. And that's the reason that you're going to mediation, is because, you're not communicating well, and that's fine. But you can control your side of it. So coming back to speaking your piece, make sure that you are saying and communicating what it is that you need to communicate, but holding your boundaries in terms of what you will and will not tolerate. But they're again, the mediator is there to help with that. And genuinely trying to find a solution. This is not a chance to get back at them or to hurt them for what they've done to you, or to try and claim, something because you feel like you just should have it. Especially this can often come up if your spouse cheated on you, or if they're the ones who left or they made the decision. It can feel like, well, this wasn't my decision, so I shouldn't have to do this. I get that, and it feels totally unfair. But that's not where you're at right now. It is happening, and now the idea is to sort out your emotions around it, but to understand that the point you're at now is the divorce is happening, and you need to come to an agreement about how to do that and what's best for your kids, and that's where you're at. It's not about getting even. It's not about getting back. It's not about whose fault this was or whose decision it was. It's about, this is where we are. How do we want to move forward? And a huge thing that helped me in all of the difficult conversations that we had was thinking about it in terms of, when future Lindsey looks back on this moment, looks back on this day, looks back on this conversation, how do I want to know that I've handled it? How do I want to look back and know that I dealt with it? That I come back to over and over of what does future Lindsey want to look back on and how will I want to have done it? And be that version of you. You can't control what your ex does, but you can control what you do, and you can control the version of you that you want to be. And if we're not all perfect at it. There were times where I said things or did things or, said it in a tone of voice or said certain things that I don't necessarily look back on and go, well done, past Lindsey. There's somewhere I'm like, yep, your emotions got the better of you in that case. That was an outburst that maybe would have been better not having burst out. But we're not perfect. We are human. That happens. And be really kind and gentle and compassionate with yourself when that happens. But then try it again next time. And if you need to in mediation, if you need to pause and gather your thoughts and take some deep breaths, do that as well. But coming back to the point of it is to find a path forward. What does future you want that path to look like? Keep your end goal in mind. Again, so I knew even when we were fighting and trying to, we were just totally not agreeing on basically anything at the beginning, but I knew where I wanted to get to with our relationship. I knew what I wanted. I knew eventually I wanted a peaceful, cooperative, communicative relationship, and that me doing all this shit right now wasn't going to help that. So I kept going, okay, I know I don't feel peaceful and cooperative and communicative right now, but that's where I want to get to. So what would that version of me look like? How would that version of me handle this? Let's pretend to be that version of me now because that's where I want to go. And that would help me have those conversations even when I didn't feel like it at that moment. So hopefully all of that is helpful. Let me think if there's anything else. I think this is cool enough to drink now without scalding myself. Yes. I think that covers everything. So I will wrap up by saying that as I always say, if there's anything that came up for you that you wanted to discuss more with this, send me a message. You can always leave it in the comments to keep the conversation going with other people, or send me a message directly if that's more comfortable. I will be back here again next Wednesday to do another tea break, so you can send me your questions. I always put up a story box on Tuesday, on the day before, where you can put your questions in the story box, but you can send them to me in a message whenever you like. If you're sitting listening to this now and you think, oh, I want to ask that for next week, fire away. That's fine. You don't have to wait until next week to ask. If you think that if you know anybody who might find this useful or interesting, please share it with them. I would absolutely love to have this be spread as far and wide as possible. And then, as always, I've got the ways to work with me. So, like I said, I'm an intimacy and empowerment coach, and my whole job is to work with women to help them own their power and their pleasure and deepen in their intimacy with themselves and others. So you can do this in several ways. We can do one-to-one coaching, which is you and me on a video call, and if you get the support package with Voxer in it, we've got voice and text messaging support as well. I have the Divorcee program where there's lessons that you can go on and buy online. So there's the doubting phase where you're like, I don't know if I'm going to stay in my marriage or not. There's the divorcing phase where you're like, we're divorcing. I am anywhere in the mess of it because that mess can take a while. And then there's the dating phase where it's like, all right, time to go and put my heart back out there again. Let's do this. So all of those are available on my website, lindseyhallcoaches.com, or send me a message and I can hook you up with all the details. I think that's probably everything. So, any questions, comments, concerns, just general anecdotes you want to share with me, let me know. And otherwise, have a wonderful day. Mwah!